Michael, let's start with you. Go through your AFC division winners on paper right now.
Well, I started out in the AFC. I like the Bills, and I know it's a chalky pick, but I really like the Bills. I think the Bills with Josh Allen, I think everybody gets so caught up in Stephon Diggs. Oh, they lost Diggs. They're a 12 team now. They're going to be, Dalton Kincaid's going to be the main guy. He's the third receiver. They got by with other receivers. They ran the football effectively late in the year. They looked better as an offense. I mean, actually, they were the best team against the Chiefs. So defensively, some concern in their defensive front for me, but I think it's enough. Miami hasn't proven they can play physical enough for me to think they can win the East, and Miami hasn't won late in the season. I mean, I think, what are they, 4-10 in Mike McDaniel's career as a head coach of the Miami Dolphins since Thanksgiving Day, so I'm not going there. The West was easy. I didn't have the guts to pick the Chargers, even though I'm not in love with the Chiefs. I think they have work to do. But to me, and I think by them having work to do at minus 230 is a number, right? Mm-hmm. I think to me, if they were like you're talking about Super Bowl defending champions at minus 230, that's as you would say, that's not a really ridiculous price if you just know it's going to happen, right? And I don't know it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen, but I think because of Mahomes, I'm going there. Plus 145 for the Bengals. I like them. I think the North. I think the Bengals can be better defensively with their improvements with Geno Stone at safety, along with bringing back Von Bell. Their defensive front with Sheldon Rankins being healthy inside for them, who they signed from the Texans. I think that certainly helps. And I'm trusting Joe Burrow to make plays and be healthy, which he wasn't at the beginning of the year last year, and then he wasn't in the middle of the year. So that's that. And then, to me, I threw a dart at the Colts. I really don't know who's going to win the South. I don't think it'll be Tennessee, but after Tennessee, I'm not sure who the best team is, Stormy.
That's fair. And yeah, I see you put the Colts there at a plus 310 price. You are one of just 4 people to select Indy in the guide this year. I'm on the Texans there. There were 9 of us that had Houston. The other 8 were on Jacksonville. And we've talked so much about Trevor Lawrence, and the turnover issues for me are something I really struggle to get over. And I just don't feel like Jacksonville, with some of the pieces that they unexpectedly, in my opinion, lost this offseason, are a team that can really make another run. I just really like Houston, and I'm excited for their future. But I agree with you that that's a division that kind of felt up in the air. Same thing with the AFC North. That was an even split from our staff. 10 took the Bengals, 10 took the Ravens. I'm on Baltimore's side of this. Mike Somich, interestingly enough, the lone wolf to pick the Browns. And in the AFC West, I'm with you in the AFC West and the East. I grabbed the Bills and I grabbed the Kansas City Chiefs here. Kansas City, in addition to being the defending Super Bowl champs 2 times running, on a ridiculous run of 8 straight division titles dating back to 2016, everyone in the guide except for Jonathan Von Tobel was on Kansas City. He took a shot on the Chargers, which I know we talked about this last week, but I do think that's interesting because every single year there's at least one team that goes from worst to first in their division. You picked the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC as your team to do that. JVT going with the Chargers. And I do think that that's a team that could take a really interesting step this year with their new leadership and the difference in mentality and culture. The Chargers are a team I'm very excited about this season.
As I am as well, and I think they'll improve on the over total there too. I think, to me, what we lose sight of when we do these predictions is that 50% of the teams that made the playoffs the year before don't come back and make them again.
Yeah.
And so you've got to find, of the 14 teams, you got to find 7 or at least 6 that aren't coming back again. Who are they, right? And so I think, to me, that's where I always try to, what are the new teams coming in there? Because that 4th place schedule does make a difference. I mean, it really does. And when you can pick up a couple, like the Chargers, they've got Carolina, they've got New England as out of conference, out of conference. The Chargers, the Panthers, and then the Patriots, and the same level in the conference. So they can win those 2 games. Plus, who says the Raiders are going to be this good of a team? Mm-hmm. I mean, so there's a chance they get that over total. So I think you just got to think a little outside the box. And it's so hard to do it for me specifically in July when I just haven't seen all these things come together. But I'm going to go with coaches more than I'm going to go with anything.
And a couple things that we asked TG about at the end of the block, the Buffalo Bills, a team that as far as the guide goes in selections from our staff, people weren't particularly interested in. We were 2 of just 5 people in the 21 that were polled to make their selections that chose Buffalo in this spot in a division that's clearly, very compact at the top in terms of odds. The Buffalo is the favorite there at plus 170. The Jets plus 190 and Miami 2-1. 9 people choosing the Miami Dolphins and being high on this team. And we talked so much about the struggles and challenges that they had beating good teams last year and the way things fell off the rails when Tua Tagovailoa didn't have his full complement of weapons to distribute the ball to. And now you have the questions this offseason about his contracts and his body with how thin he is. Is he going to be able to hold up? I think there's a lot of legitimate questions in addition to the talent defensively they lost and hoping that you can get some of those guys back healthy too.
Yeah, and new defensive coordinator too. I mean, look, they hired. We hire a new defensive coordinator has Anthony Weaver was a defensive front coach, so it's always been a little bit. What are we sure that's going to work out? I know they're happy that Vic left, but the players in Philly are happy that Vic's there, which tells you a little bit of something, right? That you're concerned of. So. For me, I can't get behind the Miami. I mean, you have to respect the fact, and Miami falters down the stretch, and the fact that they have to play some really challenging games in November and December on the road. They have to be in Cleveland, and they have to be at the New York Jets at the end of the season when we know they don't play well. I think that tells me a lot right there.
Let's dedicate these last couple minutes to your Indianapolis Colts pick, especially with producer Elliot, at the controls today. We want to make him a little bit happy here. I think the big question, and TG even said it, right? Serious bettors have been making picks and putting money on Indy this year with a belief that Anthony Richardson, after missing 12 games last year with the shoulder surgery, is going to come back healthy and have a season worth of those flashes we saw last year that he looked so special. Like, what's your expectation for Anthony Richardson, period? We've seen a lot of the videos of him. He looks like he's good. He looks like he's healthy. I feel like all of this year is really contingent on him and how he performs.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is. And I think, the one thing you have to say about Anthony Richardson is, and if we had Chris Ballard on the podcast, and he made it very clear about this as well, is Richardson sees himself as a passer. He's not a runner. Whereas, and this is not disrespectful to Jaden Daniels, Jaden Daniels is a runner. Jaden Daniels is going to throw it, but if it's not there, he's running. Anthony Richardson wants to throw it, and he's got a powerful arm. He can make any throw. They didn't have Jonathan Taylor. So if you like the Colts, what you're saying is the addition of Jonathan Taylor, who they didn't have last year, the addition of Anthony Richardson, 2 key players in their scheme to go along with where they are with the re-signed Michael Pittman and having their offensive line intact, they're going to be better offensively. And then the concern for me is always their defense, right? They signed Pay, they picked up his 5th-year option to give him a rusher on the outside, and then they drafted Latua from UCLA to give him another rusher on the outside. So, to me, they've really improved their front. Now, are they good enough at corner? That remains to be seen. I think that's the question mark. But look, they're an incomplete pass away from beating the Texans when the Texans were riding high as high as anybody could.
For sure, a play away from winning the division with Gardner Minshew, right? When you have Anthony Richardson, if he's healthy and actually becomes the star that many think he could be, it could be a special season. Colts win total set at 8.5. Again, their price in the division plus 310 to make the playoffs plus 140. The one thing with Richardson for me that I just thought this was crazy when I first read it was that since his first season in Florida in 2020, college football and NFL combined, just 17 career starts and 265 completions. There were 20 quarterbacks in the NFL last year that had more completions than Richardson has had since 2020. He needs that experience. Hopefully he can stay on the field healthy to get it.